Reeves Immigration Law Group now brings you immigration law on your side.
Magandang gabi mga kababayan. Welcome to another Immigration Law on your side. Nandito po sa PHLV Radio, hatid po sa atin ng ating mga kaibigan from Reeves Immigration Law Group. Napaka-timely ng pag-uusapan natin yung mga kababayan. As you know, if you haven't caught wind of it, America is electing a president. And this may well be, as the media seems to remind us constantly, na this will probably be the most consequential election in a generation. So today, we are going to discuss how important the president election is vis-a-vis American immigration. So, diretso na tayo. Pakilala na natin ang ating kaibigang si Atty. Flomy Diza. Kasama na naman natin from the Bay Area. Magandang gabi po, Atty. Diza.
Good evening, Kuya Yo, at all viewers and listeners. Good evening po sa inyong lahat at mga US citizens hindi pa bumoboto. May mga, as we said, very timely yung ating pag-uusapan ngayon because, we're going to discuss presidential election and the impact of US immigration.
Mm-hmm. And attorney, napansin ko lang medyo mukhang malamig na dyan sa Bay Area ngayon.
Yes, Kuya Yo, fall na sa atin kaya medyo maganda na ang weather dito, mga 50s, 60s, kaya magandang mag-sweater at malamig na sa labas.
Lumalamig na nga kahit dito, attorney, sa Las Vegas pag umaga ay medyo malamig na rin. But anyway,
Simoy Pasko na dito, Kuya Yo.
Ayun, malapit na ang Kapaskuhan, kaya magandang mapag-usapan natin especially with the elections kung ano ang magiging epekto nito sa atin. And of course, Attorney Flomy Diza will walk us through this topic. And syempre, Attorney, kung ang pag-uusapan ay ang effect ng presidential elections at ang American immigration, top of mind dyan ang kailangan itanong is, what is the role of the president in U.S. immigration?
Yes, the president, Kuya Yo, is one of the three most powerful person sa US government. Yung trinity na sinasabi, one being the Congress and the federal courts, and of course the president being the chief executive. So essentially, Kuya Yo, ang presidente holds a very powerful position when it comes to immigration. Although ang palagi nating ina-emphasize, di ba, that the immigration laws are written by Congress. That's the general rule. And of course, alam din natin na may mga presidential decrees or executive orders or proclamation, orders ng ating Pangulo that will definitely impact ang immigration. So, being the chief executive ng executive branch natin, the president has the authority to implement ang US immigration laws po natin.
Mm-hmm. So, alam natin, attorney, na like previous discussions natin, ang presidente ay hindi naman siya all powerful dahil nga merong checks and balances. So, what can the president do and not do in US immigration?
Yes, essentially, Kuya Yo, as we said, yung mga important immigration policies, it should be enacted by Congress, right? So, if you look at the immigration history, yung mga karamihan na mga immigration reforms natin ng panahon ni Reagan, yung IRCA, yung Immigration Reform Act, right, that gave immigration reform for people who were here before 1987. It's a blanket, reform, right? It was passed by Congress and approved by the President. So essentially yun, or nung panahon ng Pangulong Clinton, where yung 245I para sa mga overstay, may mga congressional approval din yan, or the bill that was passed by Congress and approved by the President. So essentially, that's the rule. At meron tayong existing law din, yung tinatawag natin na Immigration and Nationality Act that was enacted by Congress that's in place, although yung interpretasyon, right, comes to the federal courts. Although yung implementation, doon pumapasok ko yung policies and executive orders. Yun yung pangalawa ngayon na tinatawag natin executive orders. Yes, the president can implement the law. So, if you're going to look as far back as President Obama, yung DACA, di ba? That's a presidential executive. It's an executive order. right? That allows yung mga young immigrants to obtain work authorization. So iyan, presidential proclamation din yan, proclamation or executive order na walang congressional approval. That's why it's being questioned during President Trump's, presidency nung 4-year terms niya. Now, although as long as it's within the bounds ng batas, pwede naman silang gumawa ng executive order na yan. And then of course, may mga batas din kuya, that requires yung publication, right? And yung mga regulations, immigration regulations na hindi basta-basta pwedeng baguhin na ng presidente kasi may mga comments sa public yan. And more importantly, yung existing laws natin hindi rin pwedeng i-amend ng ating Pangulo without congressional approval, kagaya halimbawa ng same-sex marriage, di ba? The ability, meron ng Supreme Court decision yan, and of course the ability of the same-sex people to get married and obtain immigration benefits. So ito yung mga restrictions, or ito yung mga powers ng presidente, and of course the restrictions that we just discussed.
Mhm. Mainit ang pinag-uusapan ng ating mga kababayan na dahil nga kung sino ang susunod na uupo ay of course will be affecting a lot of the immigration pathway. And naturally in the executive branch merong mga departamento, merong mga agencies na more or less controlled, by the president. Ano po itong mga agencies na ito within the government system that is controlled by the government that may affect immigration?
That's a very good question kasi doon natin malalaman how powerful the president is when it comes to U.S. immigration. Dahil if you look at the power ng presidente as being the president and of course the chief executive officer, may mga government agencies, we all know yung mga cabinet members, di ba siya yung nag-appoint dyan, of course with the congressional approval, but essentially sa mga immigration, kuya, apat na government agencies ang control ng Pangulo. Right? Yung very importantly, yung US Department of Homeland Security. Ito yung mga tumatanggap ng mga applications, yung benefits, immigration benefits, kagaya ng pag-file ng petition sa family member, pag-apply ng green card, pag-apply ng asylum, under Department of Homeland Security yan. And may mga sub-agency pa yan where yung CBP, yung mga Custom Border Protection, where it determines kung sino tatanggapin sa port of entry, di ba? So, doon pumapasok yung expedited removal, doon pumapasok yung secondary inspection. So sila rin yan under Department of Homeland Security. And of course, under that branch, nandiyan din yung ICE, yung kinakatakutan na maraming mga kababayan natin na, overstay na, Immigration Custom Enforcement, where nanguhuli, ng mga TNT, yung mga overstay or may mga violations sa immigration or may mga criminal records. So ito yung under ng Department of Homeland Security. That's only one, di ba tayo nakakadami sa mga sub-agencies nila, meron pang tinatawag natin Department of State, right? Also a very important and powerful agency when it comes to U.S. immigration dahil dito kuya pumapasok yung sa mga nagko-consular processing abroad, right? Sa halimbawa, nasa Manila, yung aplikante, nasa Manila yung pinipetition or nasa ibang bansa, dumadaan po yan, yung inyong petition, that once it's approved by Department of Homeland Security, pumupunta yan sa National Visa Center, right, which under na po yan ng Department of State. Essentially, pag pinoward na rin sa US Embassy, under Department of State na rin sila. So, yan yung pangalawang very powerful agency. Now, yung pangatlo dyan, Kuya ay yung Department of Justice, right? So, isingkit natin yan. Ang Department of Justice, nasa Pangulo din yan, and when you look at the system ng immigration natin, yung mga immigration judges natin, right? And then pag natalo ka the judge denied your case, you're going to appeal that to the Board of Immigration Appeals under Department of Justice yan. So nasa Pangulo pa rin yan. Diba? Unlike other agencies na ang courts, right, mga judges is under the Supreme Court natin. So hiwala yan sa atin sa Pilipinas. But here, ang department, ang immigration judges are nasa executive department. Wala po yan sa Supreme Court o wala siya sa federal courts, kundi nasa executive. Kaya lahat ng mga policies when it comes to expedited removal, when it comes to, prosecutorial discretion na ang sasabihin ng Pangulo during Obama's time na okay, we just stop muna yung implementation ng tawag nito yung pag-remove ng mga undocumented or illegal aliens na term nila, During Obama's time, nagkaroon ng prosecutorial discretion where they administratively close the case for people who are not high priority, right? Kung walang criminal conviction, lalong-lalo na kung may mga family members and they are contributing, taxes or working and paying their taxes. So yun yung pangatlong government agency. And yung pang-apat, of course, yung Department of Labor. And part of our discussion din natin, yung obtaining a green card, of course, is through employment, Kuya Yo, di ba? Napag-usapan natin yung mga registered nurses, yung mga caregivers, medical doctors, they have to undergo yung tinatawag natin labor certification process na dumadaan huyaan ng Department of State, where you have to justify that the job offer sa mga sa mga foreigners is that there's no willing and qualified US citizen to take the position para i-certify ng Department of Labor para i-offer natin to sa mga foreign workers. So yun yung apat na government agencies or cabinet positions na kontrolado ng ating Pangulo, essentially because siya yung nag-appoint at sila ang nagpapasa ng mga tinatawag natin proclamation orders, executive orders, or presidential decrees.
Mhm. Well, it seems that there are a lot. I mean, apat na sangay ng government natin kaagad. And that is why, attorney, some of our kababayans or the general public, nagtatanong sila kung paano ba nagkakaroon ng checks and balances in this system in such way that the president or the executive branch will not have total control of immigration.
That's true. As although we said that the immigration law should be passed by Congress, right? But most likely immigration policies, especially Donald Trump, and even during Obama's time, that's why when President Obama, decreed the DACA, right, under proclamation order, yan. That's why when President Trump was campaigning, sinasabi niya this is illegal. But during his term, there are numerous and hundreds of presidential decrees as well. So parang sino-shortcut yan, di ba? Although the good thing about our in a democratic country like the US is that meron naman tayong courts that you can file your grievances. If you think that one branch of government has exceeded the authority, pwede kang pumunta sa sa federal courts and complain and argue that these actions are illegal or unconstitutional. So if you recall sa mga discussions natin in the past where people can go to court and compel USCIS to implement or to understand the law in a way that it applies as it applies to the law, right? Kung mali yung interpretasyon ng Pangulo, right, or ng USCIS and or Department of Homeland Security, we can always go to court and ask the court to interpret the law in such a way that ito yung batas. So merong options na yan, that's a check and balance. Pero unfortunately sa mga nasa removal proceedings, Kuya, yung mga dinideport na, immigration judges usually ang nagde-decide dyan, as we said, on the Department of Justice. And then pag in-appeal mo yan, nasa Department of Justice pa rin. The last recourse that you're going to do now is that petition for review before the Ninth Circuit Courts. Court na pumapasok yun. So in a way, meron pa rin check and balance, although it's very limited. And if you have a good lawyer, if you know what you're doing, and you think that you are aggrieved by such laws, then you can always, file with the district courts.
Mhm. Well, mga kaibigan, talagang magandang naiintindihan natin ang pasikot-sikot nito in terms of how it works in the government. And para sa mga late tuners natin, kayo po ay nakikinig at nanonood ng Immigration Law on Your Side. Hatid po sa atin ng Reeves Immigration Law Group. Nakikita nyo naman po si Atty. Diza ay nasa kanyang opisina dyan sa Bay Area. At mamaya, magkukwentuhan tayo siguro ni Attorney ng isang recognition na ibigay sa kanilang law firm. Napakagandang recognition. Mamaya mga kaibigan, pagbabalik ng Immigration Law on Your Side, tanungin naman natin si Attorney, isa sa mga maiinit na itinatanong ninyo, naririnig ninyo, pagka especially ngayong nung campaign season, naririnig ninyo yung immigration reform. So malaman natin, when was the last time that we had an immigration reform? Sa pagbabalik po ng Immigration Law on Your Side, dito po sa PHLV Radio, dyan na po kayo.
Reeves Immigration Law Group has been representing immigrants for nearly 40 years. Reeves Immigration Law Group has been fighting for its clients through experience and expertise. With immigration lawyers you can access at reasonable fees, even on Saturday. Payment plans are also available. Call us for your immigration solutions. We can do worldwide telephone and Skype consultations. Reeves Immigration Law Group, 1-800-795-8009. Reeves Immigration Law Group has offices in Los Angeles, San Francisco, China, and Philippines. See us at www.rreeves.com. Reeves Immigration Law Group, 1-800-795-8009.
Mga kaibigan, nagbabalik po ang Immigration Law on Your Side right here at PHLV Radio. Hatid po sa atin ang mga kaibigan natin from Reeves Immigration Law Group. May opisina po sila sa Bay Area, LA area, and nandyan din po sa China and dyan po sa Pilipinas for our listeners out there in the Philippines. Before we headed to a break, I sort of gave you a little bit of a hint about ang ating Reeves Immigration Law Group. Attorney, balitaan niyo naman kami, nakita namin sa inyong Facebook. Mukhang magandang balita ito about our law firm, our Reeves Immigration Law Group.
Yes, Kuya, maraming salamat. At we are humbled to be one of the top 16 boutique ng 2021. Ito yung recognition coming from a reputable, journal. Ito yung San Francisco and Los Angeles Daily Journal. In fact, I think they asked several law firms where they have to provide yung mga success stories nila, Kuya Yo, and of course the working environment and everything that we provide with our clients, especially this pandemic time. And of course, we complied naman, di ba, kung ano yung mga sa tingin namin that really uplift and help sa mga kababayan natin. And we have many clients that are satisfied and that we have given green cards despite the complexity of the cases. And as I said, I'm always proud of my firm because we have a very dedicated staff, hindi lang mga abogado, kundi yung aming mga mga working staff as well. Although during this pandemic, we also observe, Kuya Yo, para hindi tayo kasama sa pagiging malala ng pandemic, we also observe yung CDC guidelines at mga local government agencies instructions, no? We comply with all the guidelines as well. So yun po ang aming recognition despite the pandemic, Kuya Yo. We are here, working for immigration applications sa mga kababayan natin. At maraming salamat for mentioning this.
Well, congratulations sa ating mga kaibigan from Reeves Immigration Law Group. So patuloy po kayong makinig at tumutok sa Immigration Law on Your Side at napakarami pang mga ibang balita na ihahatid sa atin si Attorney Diza. If you remember, a lot of breaking news and a lot of talagang napapanahong na mga balita tungkol sa immigration, napakinggan nyo dito sa Immigration Law on Your Side. So patuloy po kayong tumutok. And anyway, balik po tayo, Attorney, sa pinag-uusapan natin ngayong gabi. And it's very timely dahil nga, for those late tuners again, we started off the program saying that, we are electing a president. And then alamin natin ngayon kung ano ang relationship nitong presidential election vis-a-vis American immigration. Isa sa mga itinatanong ng ating mga kababayan ay, when was the last time that we had an immigration reform, Attorney?
Yes, very timely, Kuya Yo, whether President Trump or Vice President Joe Biden, if elected as president, will provide an immigration reform sa ating mga undocumented or out of status ng mga kababayan natin is a thing that we look forward to, in the future. The last one, Kuya Yo, was in 1986 during President Reagan's time. And as we mentioned a while ago, this was approved by Congress, both the House of Representatives and the Senate, through a bipartisan. Bipartisan, ibig sabihin, they discuss among different party lines and come up with a agreement na this for the best of the American people. That's why they provided that blanket immigration reform. So that was 1986. So ilang taon na yun, Kuya Yo? It was like almost 40 years na yata, right? When that happened. And marami sa mga kababayan natin na minsan naghihintay din ng ganyang reform. Sabi ko, it might not come anymore because, a lot of anti-immigration advocacies, they also oppose this kasi sinasabi nila that would encourage people to come here illegally then. So, although that was the blanket immigration reform where they would just say that as long as you can provide that you were here before this cut-off date, diba? I think that was 1982, I think, when they said as long as nandito ka before this cut-off date, pwede kang mag-apply ng green card. So marami pa rin tayo nakikita sa mga applications sa mga client natin when they apply for citizenship that they went through this process. Now, yung this, as I said, this was during President Reagan, and then nung mga subsequent president na Kuya Yo, may mga tidbits, yung mga small piece na immigration bills that hindi man ito blanket immigration reform, nakakatulong din sa mga sa mga immigrants kagaya nung panahon ni Bill Clinton, as we said, yung 245I. Hindi yan blanket immigration reform, kundi sinasabi lang ni Clinton dati is mag-file ka ng petition, ito yung cut-off date mo, di ba? As long as you file this petition before 1998, so even overstay ka pa ng 10 taon, 5 taon, 20 years kang overstay, as long as you file before 1998, pwede ka makakuha ng green card. Kung meron kang magulang, meron kang kapatid, meron kang employer who files a petition for you, pwede ka nito. So ito yung panahon ni Bill Clinton. And then, in-extend niya yan, Kuya Yo, before 2001. Di ba? Sabi niya, okay, extend natin kasi maraming nakinabang, but you have to show din na para ma-curb natin yung illegal immigration, meron tayong cut-off. Dapat nandito ka before December 20 of 2000. Right? And you file the petition before April 30 of 2001. So nandun yung hanggang 2001. Kaya marami rin mga immigration lawyers at mga tawag nito employers that despite yung lapse ng 2001, Kuya Yo, nagfa-file pa rin sila ng petition, yung labor certification, hoping na ma-extend ulit, di ba? So marami mga immigration attorneys pahila natin kasi pag dumating ulit yung extension ng yung 245I na yan, naka-file ka na, It might be a good idea, during immediately after 2001. Pero kung after 2010 na at yung 10 taon nang lumipas, 20 years nang lumipas, wala pa rin nangyayari, I don't think it's a good idea to have a petition sa inyo kung overstay na kayo. Unless covered ka previously, di ba? Let's say yung tito mo, pinailan yung nanay mo, that takes 20 years. Probably you can apply that. Kasi may mga client pa tayo ngayon, Kuya Yo, that we were able to use those kind of petition dahil at that point, in the 1980s or 1990s, they were minors. And as we all know, ang sibling petition takes 23 years, right? And then also kung married people naman, it takes about 20 years. Yung iba nag-age out and nandito na sila sa overstay, and they were able to use that. So ito yung panahon din ni Bill Clinton, and during Obama's time, may mga tidbits immigration reform din, kagaya ng DACA, which is very helpful, almost 1 million ang nag-apply. And in fact, may mga very important and very helpful immigration policies din ng ating mga pangulo na pinasa sa immigration.
Magkabilang panig, attorney, what were some of the most important and notable executive actions dito tayo sa panig ni President Obama, President Clinton? You've already mentioned DACA. What other notable executive actions have they taken, attorney?
Yeah, yung panahon ni President Obama, Kuya Yo, of course sa mga Pilipino, right, yung mga World War II veterans. And I know they fought this right for a very, very long time, di ba? So, yung recognition nila to become a U.S. citizen, I think nag-grant lang yun in the 1990s. Right? In the 1990s, where they were already over 50 years old. So you could just imagine yung 1940s during the war, di ba? Kung let's say 20 years old sila, right? Plus, in the 1990s, that's another 50 years. So, mga 70s na sila noon. So, yung mga anak nila, of course, nag-age out na, di ba? Nagkakaroon na ng asawa. So if they're going to file for a family member, that takes about 20 years. So yung mga walang asawa naman 10 years. So President Obama that administration finally recognized yung World War II veterans natin, where they said, okay, yung mga petition po ninyo, alam natin takes 20 years, right? Pwede na silang i-parole dito. As long as may approved petition na sila, right? And dito na sila hintayin yung kanilang priority date. Kasi kung 20 years nga naman yan, kapafile lang ni tatay, 5 years ago and another 15 years, baka naman hindi na maabutan. So yun primarily ang purpose ng World War II veteran. And those children who have an approved petition, they come here, paroled in here to care for their parents while waiting for the priority date. And the good thing about this is they are able to work to have work authorization, and that's a really very noble executive order ng Pangulong Obama. And of course, marami pang iba. Let's say namatayan ka ng petitioner, right? And you are in the US, you're able still to adjust status, right? Under yung humanitarian reinstatement, but you're here, you can apply the 204L. So maraming nagawa din ng mga immigration reform or small tidbits, we call it tidbits immigration policies ng Pangulong Obama. And also aside from those mentioned na pala, importantly yung nabanggit natin na they stop yung deportation, right? Meaning like if you are already in proceedings, immigration judge, what they did is they close the case, right? Kung wala kang criminal records, meron kang anak, meron kang magulang, meron kang hinihintay, right? You're paying your taxes, you are not high priority. So what they did is you're still in removal proceedings, right? But they still close it, hindi ka nila i-deport. Because once the case move forward, Kuya, and the judge determines that they're going to deny your case, then of course, that's the end of the rope ka na, and it's going to be very difficult, right? Kung mag-aapila ka and when you reach that end of the rope, wala ka nang mangyayari sa'yo kundi either umuwi ka or magkakaroon ka ng executed immigration order, which is removal.
Mhm. Dito naman tayo, attorney, sa panig ng current administration, what are some of the executive acts of President Trump?
Okay, yes. Marami rin siyang ginawa mga executive orders. In fact, as we mentioned, kung marami kay President Obama, mas marami sa kanya. Of course, I don't want to be political here and looks like I'm endorsing someone else, but you know where we stand, because we are immigration attorneys and we have experienced the difficulties during this administration where things are becoming difficult, stressful, not only for us immigration attorneys but also for applicants because of the long delays and because of difficult immigration policies of this administration. And we all know that one of the advocates or advisors ng ating Pangulo, si Stephen Miller, is anti-immigration, anti-immigrants. So if you're going to enumerate those, essentially one of them is banning yung mga Muslim-dominated countries. In fact, 1, 2, 3 yan, right? Na karoon siya ng ban number 1, number 2, and eventually number 3. Doon na upheld ng US Supreme Court, yung number 3. Meron din yung mga, of course, yung rescission ng DACA, right? Nirescision yung DACA in 2017, where a lot of advocates went to court and questioned it. And fortunately, this year, was it this year? Yeah, when June of this year, when the U.S. Supreme Court said, yung rescission is unconstitutional. So that's a good news then, despite nagkaroon ng policy ng ating Pangulo. And then also expedited removal that we just discussed this last year, where last episode, where we discussed yung mga tandito for less than 2 years. Kuya, kung wala kang magpakitang proof that you've been in the US for 2 years, pwede ka nilang expedited removal without the benefit of what they call as of hearing. So then of course yung ICE rates, marami rin, separation of families. If you count them, it's kind of depressing from the perspective of an immigration attorney who fights for immigration rights and immigration or who applies for immigration benefits. But nonetheless, I mean, we are governed by laws, right? Hindi rin naman porket ito ng executive order, you stop there. That's why we are here, di ba? To of course guide mga applicants, mga kababayan natin on how to navigate, despite the difficult times. And even during Obama's time, where as he compared, maraming rates din at that time, di ba? And we agree na maraming rates, but of course, ang problema kasi dyan yung mga prioritize naman, di ba? Yung may mga criminal conviction or may mga prior removal order na. So essentially, those are some of the executive orders done by President Trump.
Mhm. And because, mga kaibigan, if you're watching us on our on-demand platforms ng PHLV Radio, baka nanonood po kayo tapos na yung eleksyon. But this information, itong ating broadcast ngayong gabi, this is current as of October 28th, Wednesday, dito po sa Amerika. So, nabanggit nyo, attorney, yung mga executive actions ng current administration. Sa kabilang panig naman po, attorney, sa challenger natin na si dating Vice President Joe Biden, who's challenging the president, ano po naman ang immigration policy ni Ginoong Biden?
Yes, provided Kuya sa kanyang website yung ng Vice President Joe Biden, he would essentially follow some of the immigration policies of President Obama, where of course, number one, protect the dreamers. Yung dreamers, of course, yung 1 million young immigrants who came here when they were minors, right? Probably path to citizenship. So there are many. He's not in agreement with President Trump when it comes to family separation, right? And there's a lot of discussions among immigrants and among the what do you call this, in the news, where there's a separation, between separation of the parents and the children who came here through the borders, right? So as of now, they were saying that there are more than 500 children, unaccounted children na hindi nila mahanap yung magulang. So I think Biden's policy is hindi ganon. What they did during Obama's time is pag-isahin nila yung magulang at saka mga anak para pag nag-ban sila o lumabas sila, magkasama rin sila and during the hearing and stuff like that if they're applying for asylum or any immigration benefits when they enter through the border. Yes, maraming mga policies ng Joe Biden or future policies that he thinks are helpful sa mga immigrants, and one of them also is the immigration reform. Of course, it remains to be seen kasi marami din na sinasabi natin na kahit ito yung policy nila, right, are they going to implement it because they are also restricted, right? Kagaya ng panahon ni Obama or even panahon ni Bush, right, where he was actually pushing for immigration reform, pero ang Senate at that time, kontrolado ng Republican, which is, hindi in line dun sa gusto ng Pangulo. So, yung kanilang action din would be restricted. Kuya, kung ang Senate is controlled by the other party or the House of Representatives is controlled by the other party. Nonetheless, ang hope natin is of course, sa kabubuti ng lahat, hindi lang sa mga US citizens, kundi yung mga immigrants din. And as we all know, there are almost, or more than rather, 10 million undocumented or out of status dito sa United States. So yun po ang mga policies in comparison. Most likely Joe Biden would follow what Obama was, immigration policy. President Trump's is more of restrictionist, right? It's more of like, I'm against illegal immigration. And everybody says, okay, we don't want that. Dahil as Filipino, mga kliyente natin, sasabihin nila, yeah, I waited in line for 20 years. Naghintay ako sa Pilipinas. So why should you cut the line? And sometimes, there's that argument, sa mga undocumented, sa mga walang papel o sa mga nag-cross the border. But at the same time din, Kuya, may mga advantages din if you're going to give them the path to a green card or even work authorization where they would declare, yung kanilang jobs and they will contribute to the economy of the United States. So either way, whether you are pro or against immigration, you have to balance, di ba? Titignan din natin what is most likely beneficial sa ating lahat.
Mm-hmm. Nako, attorney, talaga namang itong current election season, electing a president really intersect with the American immigration in such sensitive ways, in some sensitive parts. Kaya kailangan talagang maintindihan ng ating mga kababayan and the public in general kung paano maapektuhan ng US immigration nitong elections na ito. So, guys, patuloy po kayo makinig at tumutok sa immigration law on your side because, as you know, sabi nga natin, itong eleksyon na ito ay talagang matagal na pag-uusapan. And surely on our next episode, most probably, may kadugtong pa itong episode na ito. At sigurado mas maraming tanong kayong itatanong sa ating attorney. So, attorney, before we end, I'll give you the floor to tell our audience, our listeners, and the clients of Reeves Immigration Law Group your words, especially about this current election season.
Yeah, before my parting words, Kuya, ang Reeves Immigration Law Group, we are here to provide immigration help sa ating mga kababayan all throughout the world. Kasi ang aming mga clients is not hindi lang Filipino-based, kundi any nationality, And the good thing about our firm is that we specialize in immigration only. So anything that you ask about immigration, we try to know, everything. And most of us are immigration law specialists. All the partners, of Reeves Immigration Law Group, most of our senior attorneys are immigration law specialists. And as we mentioned in our previous episodes, until now, we render free legal consultation. You can call us on the number provided to you for 155683777. You can also check our website at www.reeves.com. We have a Facebook page at Reeves Immigration Law Group. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and other social media accounts. We also publish success stories. You can find us. You can check our mga reviews ng ating mga clients, para makita ninyo that we are legit, we are real, we are here to help you, and we are reasonable. When it comes to fees, compared. We think that our fees are reasonable. We only charge what we think are appropriate and reasonable sa mga client natin. And most importantly, of course, meron tayong payment plan, so para hindi naman mahirapan yung mga kababayan natin. And i-reiterate natin, during this time, we render free immigration consultation sa mga abogado, sa mga client, for you to have consultation with us. Now, going back sa election, Kuya, this is really very important event as we discussed. Malapit na yan, and I think there are millions of people who already casted their votes, right? So, yung mga mail-in ballots, and everything, like marami na nag-vote. Pero for those people who are still undecided, right, whether you are pro-Trump, whether pro-Biden, you're Republican or Democrat, you need to exercise your right. We all know, especially if you're following immigrations, that the president plays a very important role in shaping the immigration system ng US immigration natin. And of course, they will shape immigration policies in the future. And they are very, important government official to hold that position. And this presidential election, you as a voter is more important, because you are in a position to to tell us or to make a what do you call this? Make a change. If you want to change, then exercise your right to vote. As we mentioned, lalo na sa mga U.S. citizens, this is a very important event. November 3, yung ating election, and if you already receive your a mail-in ballot, you have to fill that out. It won't take 10 minutes to fill out, and you just mail back. By next episode natin, Kuya, pag-usapan natin whoever will be elected or presumed winner, right? By next week or 2 weeks from now, pag-usapan ulit natin kung ano yung mga prospective immigration policies ng whoever will be the prospective winner. Having said that, again, in-emphasize natin sa ating mga kababayan, just one word for everyone else na hindi pa bumoboto. Vote. Maraming salamat, magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat, and have a pleasant evening.
Naku, maraming salamat po, Attorney Diza. And as usual, it's always a pleasure having you here at the station. And hopefully, malapit na tayong magkitang muli dito sa Las Vegas. At ang ating studio ay ina-outfit natin para po naman tayo ay safe. Magprograma tayo sa ating sa loob ng studio natin. It's been a while, it's a few months already. But surely we will be back at the studio very soon. Ang ating immigration law on your side. So mga kaibigan na nagbumula po sa Las Vegas, ako po si Kuya Yo dito sa PHLV Radio Studio sa Maryland Parkway. Nandito po kami sa 3909 South Maryland Parkway, Suite 215 and Suite 200 dito po sa Las Vegas, Nevada 89119. Magpadala lamang po ng mga sulat o mga comments or suggestions sa programang ito, Reeves Immigration Law Group's Immigration Law on your side. Sa pangalan po ni Atty. Diza na nanggagaling po doon sa Bay Area sa Reeves Immigration Law Group, ako po si Kuya Yo hanggang sa susunod pong episode ng Immigration Law on your side. We'll see you next time.
Reeves Immigration Law Group has just brought you Immigration Law on Your Side, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Pacific on PHLV Radio.